This boy has locked himself in a public bathroom, attempting to hide from his bullies. When the bully, Young-hee, threatens the innocent boy, Kyung-min, with severe consequences for his disobedience, Kyung-min has no other option but to surrender himself to the bullies. Young-hee chooses to torment the innocent boy, but his friend, Kang-min, advises him to do something different as he doesn't find it amusing enough. Young-hee then considers another idea to embarrass and harm Kyung-min. He orders the innocent boy to take off his pants in front of them. When Kyung-min doesn't comply with his demands, the bully throws him against the wall and goes as far as to open his pant zipper. With no option left, Kyung-min decides to follow the bully's order. However, while unzipping the pants, he tries to escape for one last time, but all his efforts are in vain. The bully, Kang-min, knocks him to the ground before Young-hee picks him up from the hair and instructs him to follow his instructions. After a lot of struggle, Kyung-min finally loses the battle and gets sexually assaulted by Young-hee. He breaks down into tears, unable to tolerate this much humiliation, but there is nothing he can do to stop all of this. Alongside enduring constant bullying, Kyung-min must navigate his toxic household. His father frequently abuses his mother, and even tries to harm Kyung-min, prompting the boy to lock himself in his room to avoid his abusive father. Despite crying all day, he feels he has no one to turn to except his helpless mother. Amidst this grim existence, Kyung-min finds a glimmer of happiness in his neighbor and elementary school friend, Jong-suk. After years of being in different classes, they finally end up in the same 8th grade class. Their joy knows no bounds upon learning they'll be together again in the upcoming year. Kyung-min is particularly pleased, hoping his bullies won't share the same class. However, as he arrives at school the next day, his distress and fear intensify upon hearing Young-hee calling his name. Looking up, Kyung-min spots Young-hee and Kang-min, poised to bully him for the next 365 days. Young-hee calls out to him, embarrassing him in front of everyone by recounting the bathroom incident to the whole class. This leaves Kyung-min even more distressed. Witnessing Kyung-min's torment, Jong-suk expresses concern for his friend, advising him to involve adults in the situation. However, Kyung-min explains that he's tried everything, but can't shake off these bullies. Though his mother suggests changing schools, Kyung-min knows the rumors will quickly spread, making his life there unbearable in just a matter of days. Powerless to help her son, his mother embraces him, sharing the weight of his ongoing struggle. As time passes, Young-hee persists in bullying Kyung-min. One day, he commands our innocent boy to do his homework, and Kyung-min obediently complies. When Young-hee then demands Kyung-min to do homework for another subject, Kyung-min refuses, stating he has to do his own work. This infuriates Young-hee, who slaps Kyung-min before ordering him to crawl to his seat. As Kyung-min obeys, other students kick him in the back, worsening the situation. Jong-suk can't bear to see his friend treated this way, and decides to stand up for Kyung-min. However, another classmate intervenes, warning Jong-suk that if he doesn't want to face trouble, he should not get involved. Even the teachers turn a blind eye to what's happening in the class. Fast forward 20 years later, the terrible memories of middle school still haunt Kyung-min. However, with his wife's support, he has undergone psychiatric sessions that have greatly helped him deal with his trauma. Life seems normal until one day, when his wife explores the basement and finds his middle school album. She enjoys looking at the photographs of her husband's childhood, unaware of the potential to trigger his trauma. As soon as Kyung-min sees the photographs, the awful memories of his childhood come rushing back, causing him to have visions of a boy wearing a pig mask. Seeing Kyung-min panicking, his wife, Min-ju, tries to calm him down. A year has passed since the incident, but Min-ju is still unable to fully help Kyung-min recover. Despite Min-ju's concerns, Kyung-min appears to be doing much better. It seems that Min-ju herself hasn't fully recovered since witnessing her husband's panic in the basement. One day, she arranges a fancy dinner for Kyung-min and adds crushed sleeping pills to his drink. After Kyung-min becomes unconscious, she places him on the floor and takes some sleeping pills herself, intending to commit suicide. She then sets molded charcoal on fire, filling the room with smoke. Lying beside her husband in a prone position, she awaits her death. After some time, Kyung-min regains consciousness only to find his wife dead. Desperate to save Min-ju, Kyung-min performs CPR on her, but his efforts are in vain. Tears fill Kyung-min's eyes as he witnesses the same pig-masked figure in the living room, laughing at him and telling him that he has finally become a monster. Soon, the police become aware of the incident. As officers investigate, Detective Gina from DMCO Dong Police Station and Constable Hei-Su join them to take over the case. Gina starts her investigation but struggles to determine whether it's a suicide or a murder. While calling the crime scene team, Hei-Su discovers something disturbing. Kyung-min has left a message on a window for his friend Jong-sok, who is now a detective. The message reads, "To Detective Young Jong-suk. Jong-suk, long time no see. It's me, Hwang Kyung-min. How have you been?" With Kyung-min gone from the scene and leaving behind a cryptic message, the incident appears to be a murder. Gina reviews the CCTV footage but only sees Kyung-min leaving the apartment. With Jong-sok's name linked to the crime scene, Gina calls him to discuss the case. However, Jong-sok is preoccupied with another case and promises to call her back later. Undeterred, Gina continues her investigation and discovers that Jong-suk transferred school, and Kyung-min dropped out in the same year. Suspecting that Jong-suk may know something, she calls him again that night and requests a meeting. Initially reluctant due to fatigue, Jong-suk agrees when Gina emphasizes the urgency. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. It's Gina. Upon arrival, Gina immediately searches the apartment but finds nothing suspicious. She then informs Jong-suk about a couple who attempted suicide in her jurisdiction. Showing Jong-suk a photograph of Kyung-min, she reveals that he is the husband of the deceased woman. She then asks if Jong-suk knows him. Jong-suk admits he hasn't seen Kyung-min since middle school. As Gina shows Jong-suk the crime scene photographs, he is startled to see the message left by Kyung-min. Gina further updates him on the case, mentioning the presence of manual strangulation marks on Min-ju's neck. Until the autopsy report is available, they can't determine whether it was a suicide or a murder. The following day, the forensic expert informs our detectives that the cause of death is cardiac arrest due to carbon monoxide poisoning. Additionally, a significant amount of zolpidem was found in her body, but it doesn't fit the typical profile of a suicide case. Her body shows no signs of struggle, indicating it's not a murder. There are no defensive wounds. The forensic expert also notes a recent broken rib on Min-ju's body, suggesting it occurred recently. The detectives conclude that Min-ju attempted suicide. However, since Kyung-min was heavily under the influence of drugs, he woke up, and upon finding his wife dead, attempted CPR, resulting in a broken rib. Still uncertain about the suicide theory, Gina orders her colleague to investigate Kyung-min's card transaction history to see if he recently visited a neuropsychiatry department. Upon learning about Kyung-min's psychiatrist, Miss Hyun-young, the detectives decide to pay her a visit. Hyun-young, being a close friend of Min-ju, can't hold back her tears upon learning about her demise. She informs the detectives that Kyung-min sought treatment at Min-ju's urging. Initially, he was doing well, having made significant progress in recovering from his childhood trauma, which involved domestic violence. However, in the last year, he revisited his middle school album, triggering a resurgence of his trauma. The psychiatrist adds that Kyung-min saw something in the basement that reignited his trauma. Gina asks Miss Hyun-young if she prescribed zolpidem to Kyung-min. The psychiatrist responds that it was not Kyung-min but Min-ju who was taking zolpidem, after she confided in her about her sleeping problem. Upon learning about Min-ju's visit to the clinic, Gina instructs her colleague to check Min-ju's credit card transactions. The colleague reveals that 2 days before her passing, Min-ju visited 5 psychiatric clinics, all of which prescribed zolpidem to her. This indicates that Min-ju was actually struggling with anxiety and depression while caring for her husband. The last place where Min-ju used her credit card is a supermarket, so the detectives head straight to the location to gather more information about Min-ju's intentions. Upon reviewing the CCTV footage, they discover that Min-ju had purchased molded charcoal, which she then used to create poisonous smoke in the apartment. This confirms to the detectives that Min-ju had planned to commit suicide. However, what puzzles them is why Kyung-min fled from the apartment and why he left a cryptic message for Jong-suk. To gather more information about Kyung-min, the detectives visit his company, Sin-suk Transportation, which he bought a year ago when it was on the verge of bankruptcy. When inquired about the CEO of the company, the manager reveals his name as Nam Ji-cheol. Confused, Gina shows the manager a photograph of Kyung-min, after which the manager confirms that he is indeed their boss. Gina then asks if the manager has seen Kyung-min recently, to which the manager responds that it has been a week since he last heard from his boss. After questioning the manager, Gina turns her attention to asking Jong-suk about his relationship with Kyung-min. Jong-suk explains that they lived in the same neighborhood since elementary school and played together, but they grew closer when they were in the same 8th grade class. Ji-na questions why they lost touch for 20 years if they were so close. Jang-suk attributes it to everyone being busy making a living now. However, Ji-na finds it suspicious that Jang-suk transferred schools in the same year that Kyung-min dropped out. To address her doubts, she asks Jang-suk about his school life, to which he responds that it was boring and not particularly enjoyable, like most students. After changing his clothes and the number plate of his car, Jang-suk heads to a showroom owned by none other than Young-hee, the same person who used to bully him in middle school. It appears that Young-hee still bullies those around him, especially his workers. A flashback reveals how Kyung-min encountered Young-hee for the first time after 20 years. At that time, Young-hee was financially struggling and resorted to stealing petrol from other people's cars. Kyung-min approached him and introduced himself as the CEO of Sinsuk Transportation, which happened to be close to Young-hee's showroom. Upon learning that Kyung-min was wealthy, Young-hee invited him inside for a cup of coffee. He mentioned that Sinsuk was the name of his school, reminiscing about the fond memories he had there. Kyung-min was shocked to realize that the moments that were hellish for him were cherished as beautiful memories by these bullies. Despite knowing the pain Young-hee caused him, Kyung-min offered him a job. Kyung-min needed a maintenance business for his cabs, and Young-hee couldn't contain his happiness upon learning he would have steady work for over 70 cars. Back in the present day, Kyung-min watches as Young-hee bullies one of his workers. Kyung-min takes out his knife and fills a syringe with some kind of injection. Young-hee welcomes Kyung-min inside the showroom, unaware that he's the same person he used to bully in middle school. Holding the syringe, Kyung-min waits for the perfect moment to attack Young-hee. As Young-hee serves tea, Kyung-min instructs him to let his staff go home since it's a holiday. Initially resistant, Young-hee eventually agrees and sends his workers home. As Young-hee heads to his office, Kyung-min hides behind the door, preparing to attack him. However, just as Young-hee opens the door, he receives a call from his daughter, causing him to pause and answer her call. Recognizing the importance of family in Young-hee's life, Kyung-min decides to alter his plan. He asks Young-hee if he can have a drink at his house, claiming he just had a fight with his wife and wants to drink in a quiet place. Young-hee agrees, mentioning that it's the perfect timing since his wife will be spending the night at her mother's. Soon, the two arrive at Young-hee's well-furnished house, courtesy of Kyung-min's impact on his life. After a brief conversation, Kyung-min excuses himself to use the bathroom. There, he reflects on how Young-hee used to bully him, and how helpless and vulnerable he felt. Meanwhile, Young-hee drinks alcohol and becomes intoxicated. Suddenly, he learns from the news that the CEO of Sinsuk Transportation has disappeared, after his wife was found dead at their apartment. Shocked, Young-hee questions Kyung-min about the situation. In response, Kyung-min grabs a glass bottle and hurls it at the TV, shattering it. He then reveals to Young-hee that his real name is Kyung-min, the same person he used to bully in middle school. Under the influence of alcohol, Young-hee struggles to comprehend what's happening. Kyung-min reveals that he had planned to kill him at the office, but seeing his absurdly happy face around his family made him reconsider. Because Kyung-min's mother suffered greatly because of Young-hee, Kyung-min now desires the same suffering for Young-hee's family. He wants his family to witness firsthand the devastation of seeing his limbs torn to pieces. Young-hee can't believe that Kyung-min is seeking revenge for their middle school days. He still sees their past actions as mere fun, unaware of the lasting impact they had on Kyung-min's life and those around him. Enraged, he launches an attack on Kyung-min. Despite Kyung-min's attempts to fight back, he is overpowered by Young-hee. Thinking quickly, Kyung-min grabs a golf stick and strikes Young-hee with it, but it seems to have little effect. Young-hee then grabs Kyung-min and hurls him against a glass wall. Despite sustaining injuries, Kyung-min retaliates, knocking Young-hee to the ground, causing him to hit his head on the table's edge. Seeing a knife on the table, Young-hee grabs it and stabs Kyung-min in the side of the neck. Before he can finish Kyung-min off, he loses consciousness due to the injection Kyung-min added to his drink earlier. The next thing Young-hee knows, he finds himself glued to the wall naked with his hands chained. Knowing that there is no way to escape this situation, Young-hee now begs for mercy, saying that he did wrong in middle school. But Kyung-min knows that he is apologizing because he sees his death in front of him, not because he regrets his actions. Kyung-min then slashes his skin and dials a number, telling Young-hee to call for help. He then sits on a chair and tells Young-hee that his life will be spared if he crawls all the way to him. Young-hee, being glued to the wall, tries to move, but his skin gets peeled off with each move, inflicting him severe pain. Kyung-min then approaches him and slashes his stomach, before looking at his lower abdomen for the next attack. Now, it is time to take revenge on Young-hee for his sexual abuse towards Kyung-min. Kyung-min then proceeds with the torture and cuts off Young-hee's private part. Instead of killing him right away, Kyung-min leaves him there, so he has a slow and painful death. He then cuts Young-hee's family's photograph, takes a piece and dips it in blood to write a message for Jong-suk on the wall. This time, he invites Jong-suk to serial killing, saying that they must do it together. Leaving a ball there, Kyung-min escapes from the house. Meanwhile, during dinner, Jina asks Jong-suk about what happened to him and Kyung-min in the second year of middle school. Before Jong-suk can answer her questions, Jina receives a call from her colleague informing her about Young-hee's murder. The detectives arrive at the crime scene, where they are shocked to see Young-hee's brutally tortured, lifeless body hanging from the wall. The scene was already terrifying for Jong-suk, as he immediately recognized the man as the bully. However, what shocks him even more is the presence of a ball near Young-hee. Witnessing all the blood in Young-hee's terrifying condition, Jong-suk feels suffocated, prompting him to leave the crime scene. This reaction is unusual for a detective who often encounters such situations. Jina tries to stop him, but Jong-suk doesn't listen and flees the scene immediately. The next thing we know, we find him in a bar, drinking alcohol and reminiscing about his time in middle school. Jong-suk recalls how Kyung-min used to be bullied by Young-hee and Kang-min, and he was unable to do anything to protect his friend. What worsened the situation was the principal appointing Kang-min as the class president, due to his excellent grades and wealthy background. During a moment when the teacher was absent, Kang-min ordered Kyung-min to crawl to him, humiliating him once again in front of everyone. After school, Jong-suk spoke to Kyung-min about reporting the bullying to school officials. Kyung-min expressed his belief that nothing would change, as he had already tried everything he could. When Jong-suk asked Kyung-min why he smiled in front of the bullies, Kyung-min explained that he hoped to avoid further torture by appearing obedient. Unable to tolerate his friend's suffering, Jong-suk went to the school at night and filed a complaint against the bullies in the complaint box. Back in the present day, Jong-suk becomes intoxicated, and the next thing he knows, he finds himself in front of a young Kyung-min, surrounded by hands that are choking him. Suddenly, Jong-suk wakes up in his apartment, realizing it was all a nightmare. He receives a call from Jina, who instructs him to stay out of the case because they need him to attend a witness interview. However, Jong-suk knows that his name appeared twice at the crime scene, indicating that he's not just a witness but a suspect, making it a case related to him. Jina then shares what they have discovered about the recent victim, Young-hee. Her sources reveal that Young-hee attended Sinsuk Middle School, the same school Kyung-min and Jong-suk attended. Jong-suk then discloses to her that Young-hee was one of the perpetrators who bullied and tortured Kyung-min in middle school. Recognizing Jong-suk's importance, Jina decides to allow him to be involved in the case. The two meet at the facility where the forensic examiner has conducted Young-hee's autopsy. Meanwhile, Jina's colleagues conduct their own investigation and discover that the person whose name appeared twice at the crime scene is now working with Jina. Concerned for Jina's safety, they rush to the facility to apprehend him. Meanwhile, the forensic examiner informs the detectives that Kyung-min deliberately avoided severing the victim's artery and instead cut only the vein, resulting in slower bleeding and a more painful death. Additionally, Kyung-min used GHB, a central nervous system depressant, which is not easily accessible to ordinary people. It becomes evident through the investigation that Kyung-min studied medicine and human anatomy to make his crime even more precise. As the detectives leave the facility, they are stopped by Jina's colleagues, who are concerned about her safety in the presence of Jong-suk. Due to Jong-suk's connection to the case, he is taken to the police station for interrogation. Sitting in the interrogation room, Jong-suk recalls how he submitted a complaint against the bullies. The following day, the teacher called Kang-min to organize his desk. While sorting things out, Kang-min managed to read the complaint against him, which stated, "Kang-min is a bad student who always scares and bullies students. Please take some action." Later that day, the teacher joined the students in the classroom and instructed Kang-min to step outside for a moment. He then asked the students to close their eyes and raise their hands if Kang-min had bullied them. Only Jong-suk raised his hand. Seeing no other hands raised, the teacher concluded that Jong-suk had attempted to tarnish Kang-min's reputation. When Jong-suk opened his eyes, he was disappointed to see that Kyung-min hadn't raised his hand. Believing that Jong-suk had slandered Kang-min, the teacher addressed the class, singling out Jong-suk, and declared that Kang-min was the helmsman of their ship, and they wouldn't allow anyone to interfere in their journey towards their destination. saying that he left the classroom, leaving Jong-suk disappointed and infuriated. Kyung-min approached Jong-suk and asked if he was mad at him. Jong-suk questioned Kyung-min as to why he hadn't raised his hand when he had the chance to address his complaint against Kyung-min. Kyung-min explained that he had already informed the teachers before, but it had been futile. He also mentioned that he had confided in his father about the bullying, but instead of support, his father scolded him for being timid. Kyung-min advised Jong-suk to ignore the bullying, because standing up would only lead to more problems for both of them. Though Jong-suk agreed to heed his advice, deep down, he was still angry at Kyung-min for his decision. On his way home, he ran into Kyung-min's mother, who thanked him for being there for Kyung-min through thick and thin. The next day, a student named Kim Cheol approached Jong-suk and remarked that he couldn't save his friend that way. He went on to describe Kyung-min as a dog, contrasting Jong-suk as a pig. Interestingly, Kim Cheol was holding the same ball that Kyung-min left behind at Young-hee's murder scene. When Jong-suk returned to the class, he found Kyung-min being brutally beaten up by Kyung-min. Kyung-min demanded to know who had filed the complaint against him. Despite Kyung-min denying any knowledge of it, Kyung-min ordered him to play the unthinkable game, a cruel punishment where victims were forced to choke themselves. Reluctantly obeying, Kyung-min began choking himself. Unable to bear seeing his best friend tortured in such a manner, Jong-suk intervened, confronting Kyung-min and demanding an end to the bullying. Since no one had ever dared to stand up against Kyung-min, his sidekick, Young-hee, confronted Jong-suk and challenged him to a fight. During the altercation, Young-hee initially seemed to overpower Jong-suk, relentlessly beating him. However, Jong-suk eventually fought back, displaying some of his strong moves. The battle continued as each combatant gave their all to defeat the other. Ultimately, Jong-suk gained the upper hand. He first blinded Young-hee by spitting blood on his face and then knocked him to the ground. Jong-suk proceeded to punch Young-hee's face until he finally accepted defeat. On the other hand, Kyung-min was disappointed in Young-hee for failing to defeat Jong-suk. Feeling embarrassed, Kyung-min left the scene. Subsequently, other students began to fear Jong-suk after witnessing his impressive fighting skills. Back in the interrogation room, Jong-suk is questioned about his relationship with Kyung-min, as he is now considered a suspect. Instead of directly addressing the question, Jong-suk insists that he must find Kyung-min and prevent his friend from turning into a monster. Another police officer, Do-sik, interrogates Jong-suk aggressively, convinced of his involvement in the murder. However, Jong-suk's friends and colleagues suddenly burst into the interrogation office, criticizing Do-sik for interrogating someone without sufficient evidence. At that moment, Jin-oh receives a call from the forensic examiner, who reveals the time of Young-hee's death. After hanging up, Jin-oh informs Do-sik that Jong-suk was having dinner with her at the time of the murder. This evidence proves Jong-suk's innocence, prompting Do-sik to cease the interrogation. After killing Young-hee, Kyung-min burned his blood-stained clothes and shoes, before making his way to the city to meet his ally at their hideout. To his surprise, his ally turns out to be none other than the manager of his company, Sung Jin. While handing Kyung-min a bag containing clothes and other essentials, Sung Jin informs him that all the company's cars have been parked in the designated locations as planned. Additionally, Sung Jin provides Kyung-min with reflection spray from the bag, explaining how it can be used to confuse CCTV cameras by reflecting light off the car bodies. Curious about Sung Jin's feelings, Kyung-min asks if he regrets their actions. In response, Sung Jin states that he has never regretted anything since the day he met him. Kyung-min then opens a bag of money and instructs Sung Jin to distribute it among their associates. This cryptic reference to the men suggests that Kyung-min has a larger team for his revenge than anticipated. However, they aren't merely hired assassins, as Sung Jin mentions that they owe everything to Kyung-min and don't require payment. With the meeting concluded, Kyung-min sets out to target his next victim. Meanwhile, Jin-oh receives a call from her senior instructing her to pack her belongings, as she will now be working with Jong-suk's team to solve the case. Jong-suk briefs the team on the situation. Out of the total 33 people in the class, excluding himself and Young-hee, there are now 31 individuals who either directly abused Kyung-min or assisted in his abuse. Their plan is to determine the direction of their investigation by identifying the suspect's next target. While Officer Man Jae stays behind to track Kyung-min's bank account, the other officers head out to question the remaining 31 students about any recent suspicious activities. Officer Pil-do visits Lee Ki-won and Sung Kyu, who claim not to remember Kyung-min. Despite their lack of recollection of Kyung Min's name, they inform the police that their homeroom teacher used to bully him. This raises suspicion among the police, as it seems unlikely for someone to know about bullying without knowing the victim's name. Jang-suk instructs Ji-na to visit Young-hee's wife at the hospital, while he himself meets with Kang Min, the class monitor. It turns out that Kang Min has become a doctor and is highly respected by his patients and students. Jang-suk approaches him, and after introducing himself, asks about Kyung Min. Despite recognizing Jang-suk, Kang Min continues to mock him, remarking that he still smells fishy after all these years. While Jang-suk inquires about anything suspicious around him, Kang Min maintains his disrespectful demeanor, reminiscent of their past interactions. Though Jang-suk finds it difficult to be around Kang Min, he remains committed to his duties and urges Kang Min to report anything suspicious to the police if he notices it. On the other hand, Kyung Min is on his way to confront his next target, his former homeroom teacher, Choi Suk-ki. Kyung Min stalks him, and eventually stops his car in front of the teacher's, prompting him to step out to see what's happening. When the teacher criticizes Kyung Min for his reckless driving, Kyung Min exits his vehicle and brandishes a knife, causing the teacher to flee in fear. The following day, as the teacher leaves the school, he discovers Kyung Min near his car. As the teacher approaches, Kyung Min walks away, leaving the teacher feeling uneasy. Frustrated, Mr. Suk-ki calls out to Kyung Min to inquire about his actions near the car, but he stops short when Kyung Min reveals the knife once again. Upon inspecting his vehicle, the teacher is horrified to find a message engraved on it, "I will kill you." Terrified, he promptly contacts the police. Meanwhile, Ji-na meets with Young-hee's wife at the hospital and obtains a crucial lead in the case. She learns that Young-hee's last phone call was to his former homeroom teacher, Suk-ki. Acting on this information, Ji-na promptly heads to the teacher's location. Suk-ki, who is already feeling anxious about potential danger, is relieved to see a police officer approaching him. He quickly informs Ji-na about being stalked and threatened by an individual who matches Kyung Min's description. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Ji-na immediately calls for backup and requests personal protection for the teacher. As she makes the call, she spots Kyung Min approaching with a knife in hand. In a split-second decision, Ji-na draws her weapon and fires at Kyung Min, causing him to flee from the scene. With Ji-na and additional police units in pursuit, the chase intensifies. On the other hand, Jang-suk receives information from his colleague regarding the Sin-suk transportation drivers. It is revealed that some drivers are receiving triple their usual monthly salary, and one of them has a previous drug conviction. This discovery sheds light on how Kyung Min might have obtained the rare drug used to incapacitate Young-hee. Armed with this information, Jang-suk heads to the apartment of these drivers and demands their surrender. A confrontation erupts, leading to a physical altercation between Jang-suk and the two drivers. Eventually, Jang-suk and his colleague manage to subdue the drivers and gain control of the situation. During the search of the apartment, Jang-suk stumbles upon a book containing a list of drug buyers, including an unexpected name, Kang Min. Upon questioning, one of the drivers reveals that Kyung Min instructed them to turn Kang Min into a drug addict. Through a girl at the club, they managed to introduce Kang Min to ecstasy, which led him to seek out even stronger drugs. Eventually, he began injecting himself with stronger substances, leading to his descent into drug addiction. Despite Jang-suk's inner conflicts stemming from the memories of their middle school days, he feels compelled to fulfill his duty to help Kang Min. One day, upon returning from a sports class, Jang-suk sat on his chair only to discover that Kang Min and his cohorts had applied glue to it. With Jang-suk immobilized, Kang Min seized the opportunity to brutally beat him in retaliation for their past conflicts. Despite the painful memories, Jang-suk resolves to fulfill his duty by reaching out to Kang Min. He calls Kang Min and instructs him to leave the hospital and seek refuge at the nearest police station for personal protection. As Kang Min refuses to comply, Jang-suk reveals to him the truth about Kyung Min's murder of Young-hee. Shocked and realizing that he might be Kyung Min's next target, Kang Min reluctantly agrees to follow Jang-suk's instructions. However, he finds that the tires of his car are flat, so he opts to take a taxi to the police station instead. Meanwhile, Ji-na manages to apprehend Kyung Min, but when she removes his hood, she discovers that someone else has taken his place. Kyung Min successfully deceives the police, diverting their attention so he can pursue his true target, Kang Min, who has just boarded a taxi. While driving, he starts advising Kang Min not to go to the police station because of his drug addiction, warning that they'll arrest him. Shocked that the driver knows about his life, Kang Min asks who he is. Kyung Min then reveals himself to Kang Min. Realizing Kyung Min's intentions to kill him, Kang Min feels helpless and shocked. As Kyung Min changes the route, Kang Min attacks him, attempting to choke him with his arm. He then uses the seatbelt to suffocate Kyung Min. However, his attempt fails when Kyung Min stabs him in the arm. Stopping the car, Kyung Min tells Kang Min that he has a video of him taking drugs. He warns that if he tries to kill him again, his men will upload the video, damaging Kang Min's reputation. For Kang Min, his reputation is everything, so he decides to comply with Kyung Min's demand. Kyung Min then exits the car and waits for Jong Suk, who has tracked Kang Min's phone to their location. Spotting Jong Suk approaching, Kyung Min flees into the parking area and hides. He calls Jong Suk and once again invites him to join his mission. When Jong Suk protests, Kyung Min advises him not to speak as if it's none of his concern. He asserts that their fates were sealed a year ago and that Jong Suk should now work with them. When Jong Suk inquires about who else is involved, Kyung Min reminds him of their friend, Cheoli. Finally facing Kyung Min, Jong Suk asks if he's killing people because of Cheoli. Kyung Min then points towards Cheoli, claiming he's standing behind Jong Suk. Terrified, Jong Suk turns around, giving Kyung Min the opportunity to vanish. Suddenly reappearing, Kyung Min strikes Jong Suk on the head with a brick, rendering him unconscious. When Jong Suk awakens, he discovers Kyung Min has already departed. He then reviews the CCTV footage of the parking lot and observes that Kyung Min has taken his gun and placed something in his pocket. That something turns out to be a photograph of Kyung Min, Jong Suk, and Cheoli. From then on, Jong Suk begins experiencing hallucinations of Cheoli, similar to Kyung Min's. Back in the office, Gino once again questions Jong Suk about why he and Kyung Min left the school in the same year. This prompts Jong Suk to finally disclose that he, too, was a victim of school violence. In a flashback, it's revealed how Jong Suk retaliated after Kang Min glued him to a chair. He attacked Kang Min and bit him on the chest so hard that it drew blood. Kang Min's minions intervened and beat Jong Suk up further. When the teacher arrived, he perceived Jong Suk's actions as rebellious and decided to discipline him. He organized a special class where parents would come and talk about their jobs to the students. Kang Min's father, a respected doctor, had many impressive things to say about his profession. However, the teacher singled out Jong Suk's mother, who used to sell fish. Exploiting Kang Min's parents' status, the teacher attempted to illustrate social class differences, but for Jong Suk, it felt like mockery. Due to the teacher's unfair treatment, the bullies continued tormenting Jong Suk. They even went as far as choking him until he collapsed. It was then that one student stood up against the bullies. That student was Cheoli, who possessed exceptional fighting skills, enabling him to easily defeat all the bullies. From that moment on, he, Jong Suk, and Kyung Min became best friends. While Jong Suk is sharing his experience with his colleagues, he receives a video from Kyung Min. In the video, Kang Min is apologizing to Jong Suk for all the bad things he did to him in middle school. Upon seeing the video, Gina suspects that Kang Min is being held in a camping car, noting the camping gear behind Kang Min. With this information, the officers set out to locate a camping car registered under Kyung Min's name. They find a car near Kyung Min's residence, but it's empty. Meanwhile, Kyung Min orders Kang Min to play the same unthinkable game he was forced to play. With a gun pointed at him, Kang Min has no choice but to follow the instructions. Amidst this, Jong Suk receives a call from Kyung Min, who once again mentions their friend Cheoli. As Kyung Min talks about Cheoli, Jong Suk's expression changes, and he starts experiencing hallucinations of Cheoli wearing a pig mask. Shocked to see his friend seemingly in front of him, Jong Suk collapses on the road. A flashback reveals how Cheoli invited Jong Suk and Kyung Min to an abandoned house he often frequented. When Cheoli proposed to teach them fighting skills to stand up to the bullies, the duo followed him to the abandoned house. There, Cheoli donned a pig mask and explained to his friends the difference between dogs and pigs. He claimed that while most dogs were cherished just for being alive, pigs were destined to be slaughtered, and their worth was only recognized when they were used as food. As a result, they learned to submit to the dogs and began to believe that gaining weight was the only source of happiness in life. No matter how hard they tried to fight those dogs, it seemed like a battle they couldn't win from the start. Cheoli made it clear that Kang Min and his cronies were destined to be cherished like dogs, while they were destined to be slaughtered like pigs. However, he he offered Jang Suk and Kyung Min a solution to defeat the dogs. He told his friends that they needed to become evil and monstrous, so they wouldn't end up like pigs being attacked by those dogs. To turn Jang Suk and Kyung Min into monsters, Cheoli instructed them to kill a cat. Initially hesitant, the duo, remembering all the mistreatment they endured from the dogs, stabbed the cat multiple times until it died. Back in the present day, Jang Suk loses control upon witnessing visions of Cheoli. Jina arrives and is perplexed to see Jang Suk in such a state. Noticing someone on the phone with Jang Suk, Jina picks up the phone from the ground, only to hear Kyung Min on the other end. Kyung Min asserts that Cheoli is their hero, and they must fulfill what their hero couldn't. He also threatens to put a curse on everyone, including Kang Min and his minions. Realizing that Kang Min's associates are Kyung Min's next targets, Jina instructs her colleagues to escort Jang Suk and Kyung Min to the police station for their safety. Jina then questions Jang Suk about what he heard that disturbed him so much. When Jang Suk remains silent, Jina suggests he stay away from the investigation since he's not in the right state of mind. Jang Suk responds by saying that Kyung Min cannot be stopped if it's not him. The duo then shifts their attention back to the case. Upon rewatching the video, they notice Kang Min's continuous movement, leading them to conclude that he isn't in a camping van but on a yacht. With this revelation, they begin their search for a yacht. Meanwhile, they instruct another officer to determine if there's a yacht registered under Kyung Min's name. On the other hand, other officers attempt to call Kang Min's associates, Ki-won and Sun-kyu, to warn them of the imminent danger. However, the duo is preoccupied with flirting with a woman at the club and misses their phone ringing. Before the officers can reach the club, the duo are already abducted. They're taken to the yacht where Kang Min is being held. On the table lies a gun, a Rubik's Cube, and Kang Min's phone. Kang Min then receives a call from his hospital director, who reveals that videos of him taking drugs have gone viral, and the hospital is severing ties with him. Meanwhile, the SWAT team arrives. Ki-won and Sun-kyu are relieved to know their lives will be spared. However, Kang Min's life has already been shattered. He grabs the pistol and takes his own life. Jina and Jang Suk rush into the yacht, only to be stunned by Kang Min's committing unthinkable. They find the Rubik's Cube on the table, but are unsure of its significance in Kyung Min's message. As time passes, Jang Suk's visions of Cheoli grow stronger, prompting him to visit Kyung Min's psychiatrist. He shares with her about the recurring hallucinations. The psychiatrist prescribes him some medication and advises him not to interact with the hallucinations. She explains that engaging with them will only make them stronger and eventually integrate them into his life. Similar to Kyung Min's situation, on the other hand, Jina still can't comprehend the fact that Kang Min committed unthinkable with a police revolver. Sensing that something is amiss with Jang Suk, Jina searches through his belongings and discovers a USB containing CCTV footage of Kyung Min attacking Jang Suk with a brick and stealing his revolver. She notices that Kyung Min had placed something in Jang Suk's pocket. To clarify what happened that night, she visits the parking area and manages to obtain a dashcam video from the car parked in front of Jang Suk and Kyung Min. With the help of specialists, she zooms in on the video, revealing the photograph Kyung Min placed in Jang Suk's pocket. Taking the picture, she contacts one of the students, Chan Young, to learn more about Jang Suk and the third person in the photograph. When questioned, Chan Young discloses that the kid in the photo is Cheoli, who had been a great help to Kyung Min and Jang Suk during middle school. Jina inquires about Keely's current whereabouts. To her astonishment, Chan Young reveals that Cheoli committed unthinkable in front of the entire school by jumping off the rooftop. Jina visits Keely's mother to learn more about the reason behind his suicide. Keely's mother shows her a picture of Cheoli with his middle school friends, Jang Suk and Kyung Min, and their temporary friend, Chan Young. She then hands Jina a suicide note found in the abandoned house Cheoli often visited. The note reads, "Mom, I'm sorry. I can't take it anymore." Another flashback reveals how Cheoli faced school violence orchestrated by Kang Min and a 9th grader, Jang Bin, who was the ringleader of all the bullies. Witnessing Keely's defiant attitude, Jang Bin ordered Kang Min to handle the situation. To provoke Cheoli, Kang Min subjected Kyung Min and Jang Suk to torture. Unable to bear seeing his friends suffer, Cheoli intervened and confronted the bullies. However, he was outnumbered. Seeing Cheoli in distress, Kyung Min and Jang Suk joined the fray to support their friend. Despite sustaining bruises all over his body and face, Cheoli rose again, grabbed his belt, and fought back against the bullies. During the scuffle, Kang Min received a cut on his neck, causing him to bleed. After subduing the bullies, Chaeoli instructed Jong-suk and Kyung-min to do the same. Jong-suk took the belt but hesitated to strike Kang-min with it, as Jong-bin had threatened to expel him from school. Due to the severity of Kang-min's neck injury, the parents of Kyung-min and Jong-suk are summoned to the school. Chaeoli, however, stands alone as his father left him years ago, and his mother couldn't attend the meeting due to her work at the bar. Kang-min's father becomes enraged at Chaeoli for harming his son and proceeds to slap him multiple times in the face. As a consequence of the altercation, Chaeoli is suspended from school for 2 weeks, while Kyung-min and Jong-suk receive a final warning. Back in the present day, the officers arrest Kyung-min's manager, Mr. Sung Jin, only to discover that he is a former cop. Upon further investigation, they uncover that Sung Jin's sole family member was his niece, who became a victim of bullying and attempted the unthinkable. Although she survived, she was left bedridden for life. As they delve deeper into the incident, the officers stumble upon an article written by a reporter named Jong-bin condemning the culture of bullying. When Jong-suk hears the name, he immediately recognizes Jong-bin as the same person who led the bullies in middle school. This realization triggers Jong-suk's memory of the Rubik's Cube found on the yacht. Connecting the dots, Jong-suk realizes that Jong-bin is Kyung-min's next target, as Jong-bin was often seen with the Rubik's Cube. When he arrives at Jong-bin's office, he's surprised to find Jong-bin already waiting for him. Jong-bin reveals that Kyung-min met him a year ago and had informed him that Jong-suk would come to meet him. In a flashback, Kyung-min approaches Sung Jin after hearing about his niece's incident. Sung Jin mentioned how a reporter named Jong-bin approached him for an interview. Kyung-min informed Sung Jin that Jong-bin was the leader of the bullies and couldn't possibly understand the pain of the victims. Despite this, Sung Jin suggested giving Jong-bin a chance, noting that he had written numerous articles on school violence. A meeting was soon arranged, and Jong-bin showed sympathy to Sung Jin, claiming he could understand his pain. Kyung-min then confronted Jong-bin, asserting that he could never truly understand their suffering. Unaware that Kyung-min was one of his former victims, Jong-bin admitted with remorse that he had been a bully in school, causing harm to many innocent students. He acknowledged that his actions had led to the death of a student named Chaeoli. Kyung-min then revealed to Jong-bin that Chaeoli was their hero, and by harming him, Jong-bin had hurt them all. Realizing the true identity of the person before him, Jong-bin sincerely apologized to Kyung-min for his past actions. He expressed that he didn't expect forgiveness, as he knew his deeds were unforgivable, but he wanted to apologize for the sake of his own conscience. Kyung-min gave Jong-bin his book, The King of Pigs, in which he documented his experiences from 20 years ago. He instructed Jong-bin that if he wanted to find salvation for his soul, he must write an article about the King of Pigs after 1 year, so that people would understand what he had endured in the past. Back in the present day, Jong-bin informs Jong-suk that Kyung-min also instructed him to write in detail about why and how their friend Chaeoli died. Kyung-min directed him to ask Song-jong about the truth, claiming that he knew what really happened. Following these instructions, Jong-bin now asks Jong-suk the real reason behind Keely's death at that time. Utterly shocked, Jong-suk responds that nobody cares about events that occurred 20 years ago. With that, he abruptly leaves the office. On his way home, Jong-suk receives a call from Kyung-min, instructing him to reveal the truth about Keely's death to Jong-bin. When Jong-suk questions what he needs to disclose, Kyung-min responds that he's the only one who knows the truth. Stressed about the situation, Jong-suk once again sees visions of Chaeoli, who tells him that Kyung-min doesn't know anything and is merely playing a joke. Terrified, Jong-suk exits his car and burns the photograph, causing the illusion to dissipate. On the other hand, we see Kyung-min preparing to kidnap his next target, Chan-young. A flashback shows how Chan-young used to sell illicit stuff in school. Kyung-min approached him and threatened to expose him if he didn't become his slave. Chan-young had no other option but to be Kyung-min's slave. He used to help the bully torture Kyung-min and Jong-suk with his high-voltage piezoelectricity device. At first, he was forced to do so, but then he began having fun torturing them. One day, Kyung-min and Song-sok were on the terrace when Kyung-min and his gang cornered them and gave them electric shocks, thanks to Chan-young's device. While they were being bullied, Chaeoli arrived there, igniting a fight between the two groups. When Jong-bin learned about Kyung-min getting beaten up by Chaeoli, he immediately made his way to the rooftop with his gang. Soon, the roof of the school becomes a battle ring, with the rest of the students surrounding the fighters. At first, Chaeoli gets outnumbered, but without losing hope, he got up and retaliated. Finally, he was able to defeat even the 9th graders, earning much respect and recognition from the other students. One day, the police came to the school to tell Cheoli that his father had died. Upon hearing this, Chan Young came up with a plan to embarrass Cheoli again. Since Cheoli came from a poor family, they decided to collect money for him with the teacher's help. The teacher told everyone to hug Cheoli to show sympathy, but for Cheoli, it was embarrassing to be labeled as poor and have people raise money for him out of what he felt was fake sympathy. Eventually, he couldn't handle it and started venting his frustration by throwing chairs at the students. After school, Kyung Min and Jong Suk found Cheoli in an abandoned house where they discovered something terrible. Cheoli decided he would end his life in front of the whole school. Before doing so, he took a final photo with his friends. He told them he wouldn't let himself be treated like other victims and wouldn't let his tormentors feast on him. Instead, he wanted to instill fear in them whenever they thought of him, making it his curse on them. To get back at Chan Young for humiliating Cheoli, Kyung Min gathered information on him. Sung Jin enlisted the help of a criminal hacker to break into Chan Young's computer system. Through this, they found out that Chan Young was part of a dark website run by a notorious criminal named Dog Park. He had committed numerous heinous crimes, including murder. In the present day, Chan Young goes to a theater to carry out his next killing. Following instructions from Dog Park on the dark web, he brutally murders the man with a wrench and sends a picture of the dead body to the group, confirming the task is done. Meanwhile, Kyung Min visits Chan Young's apartment and discovers that Dog Park is actually Chan Young himself. He had become so obsessed with being a slave that he enslaved himself with his own wicked thoughts. His cupboard is filled with illegally obtained tapes that he sells on the dark web. After some time, when Chan Young comes back home, he discovers his cupboard is empty. Even more shocking, Kyung Min has uploaded his photo on the dark web. Using his computer, Kyung Min posed as Dog Park, the leader of the group. He directed all the members to kidnap Chan Young by sharing his picture and address. As a reward, Kyung Min promised them access to Chan Young's tape collection. Upon receiving the message, the group members head to Chan Young's apartment in anticipation of the reward. Meanwhile, Jong Suk learns from police officers that they spotted Kyung Min, the convicted criminal, in the neighborhood. Jong Suk instructs his colleagues to gather data on every resident to check if any of them attended Sinsuk Middle School. Soon, Jong Suk discovers that Chan Young lives there, realizing he might be Kyung Min's next target. When Jong Suk arrives at Chan Young's apartment, he finds him bound with tape. Before the officers can rescue him, they are attacked by members of the dark web group. Jong Suk initially gains control of the situation, but he soon finds himself outnumbered as more members arrive to claim their reward. While Jong Suk fights off the attackers, Chan Young manages to escape the building. However, he is caught nearby, prompting Jina and Jong Suk to come to his aid. While rescuing Chan Young, Jong Suk gets stabbed in the stomach. One of the officers fires a shot into the air, stopping the attackers and allowing Chan Young to escape. The police attend to Jong Suk's wound, but the dark web assailants manage to capture Chan Young. They drop Chan Young off at a designated location. Meanwhile, Jong Suk is taken to the hospital, and Jina stays behind to search through Chan Young's place. There, she finds a note written by Chan Young. Earlier that day, she received a call from Keely's mother who informed her that the handwriting on Keely's will isn't his. She told Jina that she had informed the police, but no one listened. Jina decides to find the truth herself. After collecting writing samples from Kyung Min, Jong Suk, and Chan Young, she runs them through a system. To her shock, the writing style used in Keely's will matches none other than Jong Suk's. Meanwhile, Kyung Jin injects the abducted Chan Young with a sedative and transports him to an abandoned hot tub location. There, he suspends him in the tub and starts the water flowing. Kyung Jin seeks revenge on Chan Young for orchestrating Keely's humiliation, which led Cheoli to contemplate the unthinkable. Since Chan Young used to administer electric shocks to Kyung Min and Jong Suk, Kyung Min plans a similar fate for him, electrocution. Meanwhile, Jina searched for properties owned by Kyung Min and visited one of them. There, she discovered a diary titled The King of Pigs written by Kyung Min. As Jina read the diary, flashbacks showed the night before Keely's unthinkable attempt. Upon hearing his mother crying over the loss of her husband and the burden of raising her child alone, Cheoli decided to abandon his unthinkable plan. While speaking with Jong Suk, he explained that his mother wouldn't be able to cope alone without him, and he didn't want that for her. Instead of being supportive, Jong Suk questioned why Cheoli called off his plan. Cheoli then revealed that he had another plan, He wanted to stage a spectacle at school. Cheoli asked Jong-suk to point at him when he climbed onto the terrace the next day. He thought that by putting on this show, bullies like Kang-min would be scared and wouldn't mess with them easily. As Cheoli was leaving, Jong-suk asked if Kyung-min knew about the plan. Cheoli replied that it was better if he didn't know. Jong-suk, still confused and unsatisfied, tried to reason with Cheoli about changing his plan. He saw Cheoli as their savior, their hero, believing he had the power to change everything and protect the weak. Cheoli assured Jong-suk not to worry, promising that the bullies wouldn't dare to bother them after the show the next day. The next day, Cheoli went to the terrace as planned. He managed to attract the attention of the students without Jong-suk's help, just as expected. However, tragedy struck when someone pushed him off the terrace. That someone turned out to be none other than Jong-suk. What Jong-suk didn't know was that Kyung-min witnessed him committing the crime. Back in the present day, Jino was shocked to her core upon discovering that it was Jong-suk who killed his best friend, Cheoli. With Kyung-min committing the third murder, the police disbanded the team and set up a joint integrated investigation unit. Suddenly, Kyung-min drops a bombshell on the police. To everyone's shock, he turns himself in, admitting to killing Young-hee, Kang-min, and Chan-young. Upon seeing Kyung-min, Jong-suk immediately arrests him and brings him in for interrogation. Before starting the interrogation, Jong-suk turns off the microphone so that officers outside cannot hear their conversation. He then asks Kyung-min if he has something to confess. In response, Kyung-min advises him to reveal the truth to everyone. When Jong-suk asks what truth he means, Kyung-min finally reveals that he witnessed Jong-suk killing Cheoli that day. Jong-suk is utterly shocked by this revelation. Kyung-min then explains that Cheoli met him the night before he died. It turns out Kyung-min urged Cheoli to reconsider his plan, unlike Jong-suk. Realizing that Kyung-min was his loyal friend, Cheoli gave him his baseball as a thank you for being there for him. The day Cheoli went to the rooftop, Kyung-min saw him heading upstairs. He followed him there, only to witness Jong-suk killing Cheoli. Now Kyung-min wants Jong-suk to confess to the whole world what he did to Cheoli. Additionally, he wants Jong-suk to apologize to Keely's mother. However, Jong-suk isn't ready to do that, believing no one will believe a supposed madman like Kyung-min. After the interrogation, Jong-suk lies to the police, saying that Kyung-min has kidnapped another person and is holding them at Woojesan. He claims Kyung-min will lead them to the location. Jong-suk sets out to the place with the intention of killing Kyung-min, the witness to the murder. During their journey, when Sung-jin receives the text about Kyung-min's location, he heads there to rescue him. With the help of other drivers, Sung-jin blocks the path of the cars guarding Kyung-min's car. While Sung-jin chases after Jong-suk's car, Jong-suk drives it off the road and into the river. As the car sinks, Jong-suk escapes, leaving Kyung-min behind to die. Without wasting time, Sung-jin retrieves the keys to the handcuffs from Jong-suk's pocket and dives into the river to save Kyung-min, who is still cuffed to the car. Luckily, he manages to rescue Kyung-min, much to Jong-suk's dismay. Kyung-min then calls Jong-bin and instructs him to publish the article about what happened to Kyung-min 20 years ago. As promised a year ago, Jong-bin publishes the article along with the personal information of the bullies who tormented Kyung-min. The bullies start getting recognized in their workplaces and face hatred from their colleagues for what they did to Kyung-min. Desperate to kill Kyung-min, Jong-suk holds Sung-jin at gunpoint and demands to know Kyung-min's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Kyung-min is plotting to kill his next target, the homeroom teacher. He sedates the teacher in his car, and the next thing the teacher knows, he wakes up tied to a chair in the office of Sinsuk Middle School. His wrists are cut, indicating that he will slowly bleed to death over time. The teacher apologizes for his past actions that hurt Kyung-min, but Kyung-min is not ready to forgive him so easily. He dials a number on the phone and places another phone near the teacher, stating that his life now depends on the piglets he raised 20 years ago. Kyung-min then throws one phone and some books onto the school grounds. He sends a message to his classmates that reads, "You are not the perpetrator, you are the victim. If you want to obtain that document, go to the gymnasium of Sinsuk Middle School." After Sung-jin informs him of Kyung-min's location, Jong-suk arrives at the school to kill him. A fight breaks out between the two, with Jong-suk doing his best to eliminate Keely's murder witness. Kyung-min makes his way to the terrace, and Jong-suk follows him there. Meanwhile, Kyung-min's former classmates arrive at the school and start searching for the document that could prove their innocence. The phone is placed next to the book, but none of them bother to listen to their teacher on the other end of the line. After searching through the books, they find nothing, leaving them confused. Kyungmin watches them from the terrace with disgust and disdain. He's not surprised to see that all of his former classmates are searching for the paper that could prove their innocence despite knowing they are guilty. He believes that if any of them had stood up against Kyungmin and those bullies, maybe this nightmare wouldn't have happened to them. Jang-suk stands up and starts choking Kyungmin, accusing him of causing their predicament. He shows no remorse for his actions. In fact, he is furious with Kyungmin for digging up something that was buried 20 years ago. Before Kyungmin is about to pass out, Jang-suk stops himself, realizing that if he kills Kyungmin, he will have no way out of the situation. He still believes he can escape this mess using his connections with powerful people. Jina has tracked Jang-suk's location and arrives at the school with backup. While Jang-suk stands near Kyungmin, Kyungmin puts one handcuff ring on Jang-suk's hand, while wearing the other ring on his own wrist. It turns out that he is here to do what Cheoli couldn't do 20 years ago, commit the unthinkable. He believes that this way, they can curse those who couldn't stand with them when they needed support. With that said, Kyungmin jumps off the building, and Jang-suk is barely holding onto him. Just like that fateful day, the bystanders witness another victim succumbing to school violence and bullying. Jina arrives at the rooftop and instructs Jang-suk to stop, unaware that his hand is chained to Kyungmin's. When Kyungmin urges Jang-suk to come with him to see Cheoli, Jang-suk finally breaks down. He releases his grip on the terrace wall, causing both of them to fall to their demise. The culture of bullying not only ruined the lives of the victims, but also haunted them with trauma until their deaths. Ji now breaks down in tears while all the bystanders run away from the scene. Sung Jin is arrested, while the teacher's life is saved thanks to immediate medical attention from Ji Na. Jang-suk is hailed as a martyr and given a proper funeral by the police department. As promised, Ji Na returns Keely's photograph, his will, and Kyungmin's diary to Keely's mom, so she can learn about what happened back then. That's how the series ends. Not only those who bullied students were at fault, but also the bystanders who witnessed the abuse, but did nothing except for bowing down to the bullies. Time passed, but the events of the past remained unchanged. Even after 20 years, the consequences of bullying continued to ruin the lives of not only the victims, but also the perpetrators.